bit of bee biology and bee disease and that sort of thing. Bees are like any other organism. They are susceptible to diseases, to viruses, to bacteria, to all sorts of different things that can happen to them. As a beekeeper, and when I teach beekeeping as well, and one of the things I tell students is that there are two things that we need to worry about as beekeepers that contribute to 95% of the colony mortality. So if a colony dies, it's almost always related to one of two things. One of them is nutrition. If you don't have food, they're gonna die. And we have, in this area, periods of time where we have no rain, no flowers, and the beekeeper then needs to supplement the bees by giving them food. And what we give them is sugar water, sucrose, cane sugar. You buy it in the grocery store in little bags, and I buy it at Costco in 50-pound bags. Mix it up with water and feed it to them. That gets them through the times when there is no natural food out there available. The other is pollen. Pollen, as I said, proteins. It's made up of amino acids. So we get different things like soy flour and other kinds of protein, bean curds, and we add some things like vitamins and fats, you know, things that like oils. We mix it all up and we feed it to the bees as a protein source. So that's very, very important, and that's why a lot of beekeepers lose their bees. They just don't pay attention. But the second is a parasite called a varroa mite, or commonly called the mite. It came from Asia. The Asian bees have learned to live with it. You all know what a parasite is, okay? Yeah? A parasite cannot survive if its host dies. However, in the European honeybees that we have in this country are not used to that Asian parasite, and so it can kill the colony, even to its own detriment. The parasite's going to die as well, but they will kill the colony. In that case, you got to treat it. There's lots of different strategies that we use. For example, the mites, the bees will groom the mites off, and so we put a screen bottom board on the hive as opposed to solid. If it's a solid bottom board and the bees knock the mites off, then the next bees that walk in are going to get, the mites are going to jump on. So we put a screen in there so that they fall all the way out. Another strategy is we use a soft chemical. We call it a miticide. The one that I use today is derived from thyme. We know the herb thyme. It has an essential oil in it called thymol, and it causes the mites to fall off the bees. The mites can't, their sensory organs are confused by thymol. It doesn't hurt the bees, it confuses the mites, they fall off and do that. So those are the kinds of things that we do to contribute to colony health. The second thing that we do is to make sure that they have a location that doesn't flood, that there is nutrition around, that there are good conditions for them to be able to fly. In other words, they get sun at a proper time, keeps mold from forming and things like that. As long as we've got a diverse amount of trees and plants and flowers, they can find the nutrition they need. As long as we don't spray chemicals on the plants and flowers during the time when bees are foraging, then we protect the bees. So there are things that we can do. It's both in providing forage and food for them. One of the things that has changed in American farms over the last 30 years, and if you look carefully around Loudoun County, probably not in this neighborhood, but out where we live, you'll notice that a lot of farms have pastures and then trees all around them, and then other pastures and trees and weeds and stuff growing up. This was the old-fashioned way of farming, in which you had maybe 10 acres and then trees, and then 10 more acres. And what that did was give habitat and food to the insects and bees and pollinators. What they discovered then is that we could build huge farming machines, tractors that you couldn't even put in this room. You could tear the ceiling out and they still wouldn't fit, with implements that are used now efficiently to farm thousands of acres, not 10 or 15 acres. But in order to do that, they tore out all the habitat for the bees and the pollinators. They tore out all the habitat for growing flowers and other sources of food and nutrition for the bees. And instead, they started putting bees on trucks and bringing them in and making them eat one crop. And that, again, it doesn't kill them, but it didn't give them the proper nutrition for developing strong, healthy bees.